Good evening, everybody. When I was about 14 years old, I decided to learn how to play the guitar. So my parents bought me a guitar, they enrolled me in a guitar class, and off I went, started to learn how to play the guitar. For about 3-4 months, I was very interested. Then I began to lose interest, and 6 months later, I gave it up. I told my parents, I'm not interested in learning the guitar anymore. Parents were very surprised. And they said, what happened? You were so keen to learn the guitar and now you don't want to learn the guitar anymore? What happened? And I told them, well, the guitar you bought me isn't such a nice guitar. I don't really like it. There's some problem with this guitar. You see, all my friends have better guitars than the one that you bought for me. And so I'm not going to learn anymore because this guitar is holding me back. And I gave up the class. Our voices are like a stringed instrument, like a guitar. The larynx that we have in front of us, here inside our voice, just in front here, obviously not outside, but inside our voice, towards the front here, is the strings. And the air that we inhale and exhale while we are speaking is like the pick of the guitar that hits the strings and makes the sound. The air hits our larynx and makes the sound. Now, you know as well as I do that there is nothing called a good guitar or a bad guitar. Similarly, there is nothing like a good voice or a bad voice. But there are good guitar players and bad guitar players. Good guitar players are the ones that you want to listen to when they play in a band. Bad guitar players, well, you can make them out, can't you? Even if they're playing in a band, the bad guitar player always stands out. Similarly, there are good public speakers and there are bad public speakers. And you can make out which one is which just by listening to them. Hi there. My name is Shraboni Mazumder and I teach courses on public speaking, communications and life skills on an academy. For the last 25 years, I have been engaging with adults and organizations to help them be the best they can by teaching them the kind of skills that I'm teaching you, as well as different other kinds of skills as well. Today, I'm bringing to you a very special class on the little things that have a big impact on your public speaking confidence. So we're going to focus specifically on the question that I'm asked most often when I teach public speaking. And that question, as you can guess, is, how do I become less nervous? How do I improve my public speaking confidence? Because the confidence is the one that all of us find most challenging. Lots of research around the world shows that most people, about 70 to 75% people anywhere, are afraid of public speaking. Some people even prefer death to public speaking. That's how deep the fear of public speaking goes. But today I want to show you little things that are going to have big impact. Now, why do I say little things? Because there is something called the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle was developed by an Italian economist called Vilfredo Pareto. And this was many years ago, somewhere in the mid-1800s or so. At that point of time, Vilfredo Pareto discovered what has now come to be popularly known as the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule says that 20% of our actions have 80% impact. If you think of any big organization, any big company which has lots and lots of different products, 20% of their products will give them 80% of their income. The 80-20 rule has so many different applications. If you have a basketball court in school or a table tennis table, you'll know that 80% of the use of the table tennis table is by 20% of the users, 20% of the students. If you have a canteen at school, 80% of the usage is during 20% of the time, probably during breakfast and lunch. So the 80-20 rule has various kinds of applications. How does it apply to you in building your confidence in public speaking? Well, I'm going to teach you the small little things, 20% things that if you take care of this 20%, is going to have 80% impact, huge impact on your public speaking confidence. So you don't have to do big things, mega things, huge changes in yourself to become better at public speaking, especially with respect to your confidence. You just have to make some small, tiny little changes, and you will be able to speak more confidently, whatever kind of public speaking forum it is, whether it's a speech you're giving, whether it's a book report, whether it's a debate that you are competing in, whether it's an interview situation, whatever it is, these tips are going to help you to improve the confidence that you have in public speaking. So listen on, I'm going to tell you lots of stories, share lots of examples. I hope you have lots of fun as well as learn something quite enlightening. Here's a question for you. Most of the time, we're paralyzed by the thought of public speaking because we are imagining this huge audience, 200, 400 people who are all staring at us. I have to speak to 400 people today. Oh my God, that's really scary. But think about it. Is it really 400 people that you're speaking to? Is it really public speaking? Because speaking really doesn't scare us. We speak all the time. We speak to our friends, we speak to our family, we speak to our neighbors, we speak to our teachers. But it's the public part of it that makes it so difficult for us. Here's a small little tip right off the bat, right now. Change the way you think about public speaking. It's not really a public conversation. It's not a conversation with 400, 500 people out there. It is actually a one-on-one conversation. You are not speaking to 400 people. You are speaking to one person in the audience, but you're just doing it 400 times simultaneously. So it's actually just very low effort because you're speaking one-on-one with a person, and it's simultaneously being heard by 400 people. So you're simultaneously talking to 400 people. It's just a switch in the way you think. And if you start thinking this way, that this is not a public speaking forum, but this is just a forum where I'm having a one-on-one conversation, it helps you to connect better. Focus on one person in the audience initially. Look at them. Smile at them. This is the person you're going to have the conversation with. And then imagine in your head that you're having a conversation with this person who's sitting in the front row. And just go ahead and have a conversation with them. Talk to them as if they were your friend, one-on-one. During various times of your speech, your presentation, your big debate, focus on different parts of the auditorium. Imagine one person at a time. In your head, just imagine I'm speaking to one person. And if you can do that, you're going to be an amazing public speaker. One, because it's going to give you tremendous confidence because you're not speaking to 400 people, you're just speaking to one person. But also, it will help you connect so much better with your audience because you're not treating them like a group. You're treating them like individuals and you're making the effort to connect with them, which means you will make the effort to make eye contact with as many people as you can. You will make the effort to smile because in one-on-one conversations, we smile so much. But what happens when we go up on stage? We forget to smile. If I'm having a one-on-one, I'm going to smile a little bit more. So I'll connect more with each and every single member of the audience. And that way, my confidence is going to go skyrocketing as well as my effectiveness is going to be really high because I'm connecting so well with the rest of my audience. That's the small first tip that I have for you. Remember, today is all about tiny little small changes that you can make to have big impact on your public speaking confidence. Imagine now a scenario where you're sitting and you're chatting with your friend. Maybe you've gone to the mall and you're having a coffee with her. Or it's after school and you guys are just walking around the park and you're talking to each other. Or sometimes like I used to do when I was a child, walking back home with two of my friends, and so much we had to talk about. And those conversations were so easy. We didn't have to think so much. But the moment you go up on stage or you go up in front of your class, oh my God, something happens to us and we feel so scared. This is an extension of the first tip. It all depends on what you believe. What do I believe about public speaking in my head? There are two kinds of thinking in our head when it comes to public speaking. One kind of thinking is this black hat thinking. I'm wearing a black hat right now, and this symbolizes all the negative things, thoughts that we have about public speaking. all the negative kind of thoughts that we have about public speaking. I'm going to be an absolute failure. The audience is going to hate me. They're going to ask me tough questions which I won't be able to answer. I'm going to forget my speech. What happens if the mic drops from my hand? What happens if I just freeze there? These are all the negative thoughts. Now, if I have all these negative thoughts before I go up on stage or before I start speaking, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to be so nervous that I am actually going to freeze. I'm going to be so nervous that I am actually going to forget my lines. I'm going to be so nervous that when somebody asks me a question, I'll start stammering and I won't be able to answer it. Because I believe this is what's going to happen. And you know, the moment you think today is going to be a crappy day, it's going to be a horrible day, the day actually turns out to be really horrible, because whatever happens during that day, it keeps reinforcing your opinion that this is going to be a horrible day, and you just can't get out of that loop. So what's going to happen if you start with these negative beliefs is you walk up on stage and maybe the mic makes this huge noise. You know that noise the mic sometimes make when you start speaking? And everybody in the audience starts laughing. Now, in your head, you believe that the audience is going to laugh at you and everything is going to go wrong. And this reinforces your belief. So your confidence goes down even more. And then your voice sinks and somebody from the audience says, "Hey, can't hear you, speak up." And you're like, "Oh my God, I knew this was going to happen. They are going to absolutely hate me." And things just take a downward spiral from there. A different way of thinking about public speaking is the yellow hat thinking about public speaking. And when I put on my yellow hat, I'm thinking all kinds of positive things. I'm going to think this is such a great opportunity for me. I'm so excited because I've learned this new thing and I really want to talk to people about it. It's going to go great. The audience is going to love me. Things might go wrong. That's the nature of things. But I'm going to be able to deal with it really well. I know people will ask me questions. Probably some questions I won't be able to answer, but some questions I'm going to be able to answer. And at the end, I'm going to get a standing ovation because I believe I can. Now, the moment you put on this yellow hat and you start thinking these kind of positive things, what's going to happen to you is you're going to feel so happy. You're going to feel so excited about your public speaking opportunity. You're going to feel so much more confident that when you come out on stage, it's going to show in your body language, in the way you speak, in your volume, in your gestures. Just that comfort and confidence is just going to shine through. So we have these two kinds of thinking, the yellow hat thinking and the black hat thinking. And this symbolizes the kinds of beliefs that we hold in our head. And this is not just for public speaking, everybody. Obviously, these kind of the beliefs influence whatever we think and we act like in other aspects of life as well. But specifically in terms of public speaking, these are very, very powerful. Now, obviously, these are just props, and this is not something that is actually going to be sitting on your head. But these two kinds of thinking are going to continuously go on in your heads. And none of us are going to have completely yellow hat kind of thinking, which is the positive beliefs, nor are we going to have all the negative beliefs, all the black hat kind of thinking. We're going to have both of these. Sometimes we might have more of the black, sometimes we have more of the yellow. The trick here is to recognize when we are getting into the spiral of the black hat thinking. Because once the negativity starts in our head, it just grows and grows and grows. So at that point of time, you have to just stop yourself. And what I do is I just write it down. I write it down on a piece of paper. Every single thing that I believe is going to go wrong. I haven't prepared well enough. I'm feeling nervous today. Today I didn't get to have coffee in my lucky mug. What's going to happen? People are going to ask me questions. I'm not going to be able to connect with the people that I'm teaching today. I write down all of those things which I think might go wrong. And then I look at it. I take another pen and I say, okay, which one is a belief and which one is a fact? And whichever one is not a fact, which is not true, is just something in my head, I cross it out with this big fat sketch pen. I cross it out. And then as I do this, I realize that most of it, or absolutely all of it, is just in my head. Everything gets crossed off. I take the paper and I crumple it and I throw it away. And that really helps to take the burden out from my head. And then I start to write down all the things that I think are going to go well. I have prepared well. There is no reason why people will not like me. I've got lots of stories in my presentation. So people enjoy stories. They're going to love my presentation. I have a trick that I want to show. I've practiced a magic trick which is going to grab everybody's attention, just like I did right now. By the way, this is another technique you can use for public speaking, not for confidence, but just to grab people's attention. Did you notice what I did there? I used a prop. So rather than just say black hat thinking, yellow hat thinking, negative thinking, positive thinking, I use these hats. You could do that as well. And when you do something like this, your audience engages more. So you can tell yourself, I'm going to use a hat, or I'm going to use a book. I'm going to use something that's going to grab their audience. That's a good prop. So I think the audience will like it. Whatever can go well, whatever you think will go well, write that down as well and keep looking at it, because the moment you change your belief, the moment your body language changes, your posture changes, your confidence changes, everything just changes, and you will then be able to walk out on that stage feeling so much more better about yourself. This is what I mean by beliefs. I hope it's going okay so far. Today, remember, we're talking about the small little things which make a big impact when it comes to building up your public speaking confidence. Another thing about beliefs, another aspect of it, is how do we think about public speaking? And take a moment to look at the word that I have put up on the screen right here. Performance. There is a difference between performance and public speaking. How many of you are performers? Think about it. If you're a performer, if you're a dancer or a singer or an actor, acts in dramas, you are going to be performing on stage. Performing on stage is great. It's a great high. But performing on stage is quite rehearsed. There's a lot of rehearsals which go on. You have to be able to sing completely. You can't forget you can't in the middle of the song forget your lines. Just like I did just now. Did you see I got a little mixed up with my words? I can do that in public speaking. Right now I'm speaking to you as public speaking practice. But I can't do that if I'm in a play where I have to be absolutely word perfect. Or if I'm going to recite a song to you or a poetry to you, well, I have to be absolutely perfect in that, and I can't mix up my lines. But if it's public speaking, it's not really a performance. Public speaking is a conversation. And this is another mindset change that I want you to think about, another yellow hat thinking that I want you to build in yourselves. Small change again. Don't look at your speech or your debate as a performance where you have to be absolutely 100% perfect. You don't. You have enough scope for making mistakes as you go through this. When I'm teaching you this class right now, if I thought of it as a performance, what I would have to do is to practice the entire thing beforehand, make sure I memorize my lines, I have to time myself really accurately, I have to do all of those kind of things. That's going to put huge pressure on me. But if I think of this class as a conversation where I'm having a dialogue with one person in the audience, that's you. Yes, I see you right there. If I'm having just a conversation with you and I'm trying to share some of the tips that I have, it just makes me feel so much more comfortable and relaxed, and I don't have to worry about forgetting my lines or rehearsing everything because it's not a performance. This is another change. Three small belief changes which you can do in yourself right now, before any kind of public speaking opportunity, which will give you huge boost in terms of your confidence. So just to recap, 1, public speaking is not a performance. 2, public speaking beliefs, the positive and the negative beliefs that all of us hold, influence the way that we perform actually in public. We must be aware of all the black hat negative beliefs that we have, and we must also try to encourage in ourselves all the yellow hat positive sunshine kind of beliefs that we have about how it's going to go. And the third point that we've talked about is that public speaking is not really public speaking. You're not speaking to this entire big audience. You're talking to one person. If you think of public speaking like that, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a much more informal, comfortable, relaxed kind of public speaking style, which will make you connect much better with your audience. This is what we've covered so far. Let's move on to the next aspect of anxiety, because all of us have anxiety, public speaking anxiety. And I have that. Any seasoned public speaker who's been speaking for years will still have anxiety about speaking in public. Where does that anxiety come from? And if you start thinking about it, the anxiety is not what's happening right now. The anxiety is about what's going to happen in the future. You are anticipating all the things that can go wrong in the future. My public speaking, my speech is going to start in about 1 hour. Oh my God, I'm so anxious right now. What if this would happen? What if that would happen? It's all in the future. What if? The anxiety comes from the what if. Never what's happening right now, because when you're actually on stage and things are happening, you don't even have space in your mind to think about what could go wrong. You're just focusing so much on what's happening in stage right now. The anxiety happens before the public speaking opportunity, mostly not during. Once the presentation has started or the speech has started, you're on your way, other things start happening, but the anxiety reduces because you're focusing on the actual thing that's happening right there. By the way, you're most welcome to ask me any kind of questions in the chat box, because I see there are quite a few people today live with me, and I'm talking about anxiety. What if? What if this happens? It's all in the future. So a few small, simple things again. How can I start to control the anxiety? Just telling myself that I shouldn't be scared, that I shouldn't worry about the future is never going to work. Telling ourselves is never going to work. But focusing on the present rather than thinking about the future can really work. So here are some quick tips to focus on the present. One thing that you can do is to chew some gum. Take a piece of gum, pop it in your mouth, and deliberately chew it. Not like this, no, where you're not thinking about the gum at all, but you're just chewing. No. Pop a piece of gum into your mouth and then just chew it deliberately. Aram se. Really feeling the gum. You're enjoying the gum. You're feeling your teeth go up and down, mashing the gum. You're doing this. So what you're doing is you're focusing on the gum. And when you're focusing on the chewing gum, you don't have mind space to think about the future and all the things that could go wrong in the future. Another thing that you could do is to have what is called a stress ball, a little squish ball. You get these little balls, and I don't have one to show you today. I wish I did. You get these little rubber synthetic kind of balls which are very squishy, and these are called stress balls, and some of them have spikes coming out of them. They're great, you see. They come in all kinds of colors. You can have a little ball like that in your pocket before the presentation, maybe 15-20 minutes, half an hour before the presentation. Put your hand in your pocket and start rhythmically just squishing the ball like this. And what happens with that is that the excess adrenaline which is in your body, that's the hormone that's released when we are very stressed, starts to get diverted. So the adrenaline was there around your heart. It was pumping your heart, making you really nervous, and your breath was becoming shallow. And now what you're doing is you're diverting all that extra energy, that extra hormone which you were used for worrying, into the physical act of smooshing the ball. When you do that, what happens is it automatically starts to calm you down. So this is another small little thing that you can do, have a little squish ball. Another thing that you can do is to use a tongue twister. Now look at the tongue twister that I have on the screen right there. You can have 2 or 3 kinds of tongue twisters on a piece of paper. And again, remember, this is something that you're doing before your presentation has started, before your speech has started. This is the time when you're waiting for it to start. Maybe another speaker is speaking and you're getting very nervous. What can I do? I can have some tongue twisters on a piece of paper, and then I really start to read them out loud. Well, not very loud so that other people hear it, but just loud enough for me to be able to hear it. How does it help? Well, listen to this. And you can also go along as I'm doing, trying to read it out aloud as you're watching me as well. Do you want pepper or paper? Pepper or paper? Paper or pepper? Which is cheaper? I want pepper, not paper. If pepper is cheaper than paper. What happened right now is I'm so focused on making sure that I'm saying pepper or paper in the right way that all the other thoughts just go out of my head. And now I want to try to do it a little faster. Do you want pepper or paper? Pepper or paper? Paper or pepper? Which is cheaper? I want pepper, not paper. Pepper is cheaper than paper. Have 3 or 4 tongue twisters and have some fun with it. Go to another side of the stage, where you can't be seen in the wings, or at the back of the class. Take it out and start to read it very softly. Your mind is just so concentrated on this tongue twister that it has no time to worry about the future, worry about what if could happen if things go wrong. Tongue twisters are great. They're great fun and they'll relax you. It's also, by the way, bonus tip here, great vocal exercise. Wonderful to warm up your vocal cords for your speech, so that when you start speaking, you're not you're not doing that frog in my throat. You're not doing that. You can start speaking very smooth voice because you've used the tongue twisters to warm up, what is called warming up your larynx. So what I do before I come on for any kind of session, YouTube session or any kind of other kind of sessions, is that I start for a minute or so. I speak anything. I just stand in front of the mirror. I just speak. It doesn't matter what I speak. I just speak because it's great exercise to warm up the the throat, the larynx. Otherwise, what happens is when I start off, my voice sounds a little scratchy and it sounds not so confident, So this is great vocal exercise as well. So this is another small little tip which can have a huge impact on the way that your confidence is just before a big public speaking event. I'm moving on to another different kind of an aspect right now. And I've put up a picture on your screen just now. Have a look at this. And once you have a look at this, my question to you is going to be, how many of these can you remember? How many of these can you remember? This is not a trick question. Just have a look very quickly. And I'm going to advance my slide and ask you, how many of these can you remember? And if you think about it, it was just such few seconds. I just put it up for a few seconds and you can't remember it. It's not really possible. Now I'm moving into a section where I'm going to teach you some very quick memory tricks to give you confidence that you're not going to forget your speech. Very quick memory tricks, and then one longish kind of memory trick as well. And these are categorized: abbreviation, rule of 3, and the cheat sheet. And then I'll give you one bonus tip as well, how to bolster your memory, how to remember your speech or the points of your debate and never ever forget. The first one is categorize. Now, if you look at this picture once again, the one that I had put up a little while ago, it's difficult to remember all the different elements of it if you just look at it as the whole picture. But the moment you start to think about, can I categorize this? So how many kinds of things are in there? Right, so let me find out. There are some ships, there are some airplanes, there are bicycles, there is rocket. So, that's too many categories. Oh my God, that's not going to work. Okay, that's not going to work. So how can this work better? Let me think about different kind of category. They are all vehicles, things that move on water. Could be one category. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that could help me remember how many of the things that move on water are there. Things that move on land and things that move in the air. 3 categories. So this whole bunch of pictures that I have here, which is 20 pictures, I've already reduced it to 3 categories. Things that move on air, things that move on water, things that move on land. Immediately much easier for me to remember all the different kinds of things. And then I say, okay, so out of the things that move on land, how many kinds of things are there? And then you see, okay, there is a bicycle, there is a car, and there is a scooter. It starts to become much easier. And if you can even categorize further and say 2-wheelers and 4-wheelers, right? And then you start looking at the things that move on air, and you say, okay, what are the different kinds of things which are there? And this makes it easier for you to remember. So categorizing all the points that you have in your speech. So my first category is why all of you should listen to me. My second category is who is this meant for? My third category is how is this going to benefit you? So let's say I'm going to make a speech on the effects of environmental pollution on the world today. Then I can start categorizing and I say, okay, so who is the speech meant for is the first point that I must talk about. And then I must talk about why this is important. So all the whys, all the reasons will come. And then what actions people can take to reduce their impact on the environment. And then the last one is how is this going to help them as well as the environment. So immediately I'm making a category and it's WWW and H. It helps me to remember. Categorizing is one thing that you can do. Abbreviation is another thing that you can do, right? And this is also very, very easy to remember. I love abbreviations. Whenever I'm designing a class, I try to create an abbreviation, an acronym, which helps my students remember what I'm trying to talk about. All right, so look at some abbreviations that I've put here on the screen. And these are all abbreviations of big companies. And some of these you might know. And if you don't know some of these, then this is a little puzzle for you, a little homework for you if you're interested. Go and find out what these stands for. For example, EA. EA stands for electronic games. Much easier to remember. I'm not going to remember electronic games, but I will remember EA. British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. It's very easy to remember. IBM, International Business Machines. I'm sure you know all this. Does anybody know what KFC is? That's probably the easiest one, isn't it? Everybody's going to know what KFC stands for. That's the power of abbreviations. The moment you use an abbreviation, it's so much easier for people to remember. For example, once I was teaching a class on how to make a great first impression on people. And I said, you know what, I'm going to use the acronym. An acronym means short form, which can be expanded into lots of different messages. I'm going to use an acronym called MAGIC. And each one of my points, I have 5 points that I want to teach people on how to make an amazing first impression. And each one of these points will start with the first letters of the letters of the word magic. So the first one is create a memorable introduction for yourself. Have awareness of your body. Remember that you're going to articulate what is the purpose of your presentation. So the goals are really important. Only give out important messages in your presentation. Never say too much about your presentation. And care and show that you care. This is another acronym. So MAGIC is going to be so much easier for all of you to remember when I say magic rather than trying to remember 5 sentences. So you can use this as a little memory trick as well. Another class that I taught, and I can see some of my returning students here online, hi there everybody, is think before you speak. And this was when I was teaching a communications class and I was telling people how to respond to others. And this is a very, very useful acronym. Before I speak, I must ask myself, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And that just translates into THINK. Much easier for me to remember than to try to remember true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. THINK stands for think. So whenever you're putting an acronym in together for you to remember, try to create a word out of it, not just a random collection of letters. So don't ever say BBSWM. These are the 5 things. You will not remember that. Try to make an anagram out of it. Do it in such a way that it makes sense. It's a word that you can actually remember. So that's the second memory trick that I wanted to teach you. And I see some good answers in the comment section as well. Great, guys. Good to see all your comments there. Priyanshu, that's exactly what we're talking about, how to overcome your nervousness. So I hope you're all enjoying the class. Let me talk about another quick, well, not a quick trick, but a very powerful way of making sure that you never forget your speeches. And this is called the rule of 3. Let me start with a story. This is a story about jam. Yes, that's right. It's a story about jam. And this takes place in a college town in the US where there used to be a big grocery store very near that college town, very near the college rather. And some students went there to the big grocery store and they saw that the grocery store had 24 different kinds of jam. I mean, mind-blowing, 24 different kinds of jam. And they asked the owner of the grocery store, so how many jam bottles do you sell? And he said, you know what, that's quite disappointing because I don't sell all that much jam. And they said, okay, we're going to do an experiment for you. And some of the students got together and they picked up 5 jams from the entire aisle filled with jams. They set up a table in front of the grocery store and they just put those 5 jams there. And then as customers would walk in or walk out, they would say, hey, we have these 5 jams. Would you like to buy any of these? And surprisingly, they found that people bought far more number of jams. In fact, about 48% more jam when they had only 5 choices than when they had 24 choices, right? That's amazing. But this is so true of our human brains. Our human brains can't remember more than 3 things at a time. So whenever you're creating your presentation, speech, debate, whatever it is, try to restrict the points to 3. And that will help you to remember as well. 1, 2, 3, not more than that. Just 3 points. Help you to remember. Also help your audience to remember what is it that you want to say to them. Another very simple way, small simple way that you can remember your lines is to have a cheat sheet. Now, a cheat sheet is not a bad thing in public speaking. It's not an exam. Never have a cheat sheet in an exam. But in public speaking, you can have a cheat sheet. I have said this many, many times. Always write down your main points in big letters in a little piece of paper which you can have with you. And why the big letters are important is you don't want to be peering and looking like this, into your notebook like, oh, what did I write like this? That's not good. But you write it in big letters or maybe even print it out in really big font. Then you can just have a quick glance at it and see, especially if you have a podium. the podium with the mic, don't have lots of papers. Just have one sheet with the big writing on it with your main points. That's it. That's all you need to remember. Now, I told you the bonus way of learning a memory trick. Here it is. It's called the stack the house technique or stack the palace technique. You can use either word. And this involves imagining the place that you are very familiar with. So your house is the place that you're very, very familiar with. And let's say you have 3 main points of your presentation. And maybe your presentation is going to be on why virtual classes are really good for students. So you have to create an image in your mind that you're walking through your house. You start to enter your house. And as you enter your house, there are 3 main points that you want to say. Virtual classes are great because it gives access to every single person, every single student all across India, even in the rural places. Students can get access to learning. That's wonderful. The second thing is the time is very flexible. Anytime you want, you can learn. You don't have to really, keep on going to school or, specific times. You can learn at any point of time. And the third point is that you can be very comfortable while learning, and you will save a whole lot of time by not having to put on your uniform, get to school using the school bus and all of these. So these are your 3 points. Now you have to remember these 3 points. How will you do it? By using this stack the room technique. Well, you just put these 3 points in different places of your house. You have to imagine you walk into your house and the first thing that you have is a calendar from CRY, Child Relief and You, and there are some smiling faces of children from the villages on the January calendar. And you imagine this in your head. And the moment you think of the smiling faces of the children from some village, you will say, oh, my first point is that the rural children in India would also get access to online learning. The second, then you move and you say, okay, that's my bedroom and I can see my bed. Right, online learning for students is very useful because I can do it anytime, anywhere. I can even sit on my bed and I can attend my classes. That's the advantage. And then you're imagining your bedroom and there's your cupboard with your clothes in it and your school bag and your shoes. And that again creates a picture in your head and you say, that's my third point. I don't have to waste time every morning putting on my uniform, putting on my shoes, getting to school. So you just create these visuals in your head and that helps you to remember. But more than 3 points is going to be very hard to do with these kind of visuals. So remember only 3 points. Overall, a small tip that I use a lot when I'm doing public speaking, I don't try to memorize my entire speech. That never works. It comes out as rehearsed and robotical, as if Siri is speaking. What I do though is to memorize the first 3 minutes. The first 3 minutes for myself. It's crucial. And I do that because the first 3 minutes is when you're just starting off, things are cold, your audience is cold, they haven't warmed up to you yet, you're feeling quite nervous, and you might start to stumble and stutter. And the problem with public speaking is that your audience has very short attention span. And within the first 30 seconds to 1 minute, they have decided that I'm going to like this presentation or I am going to hate this presentation and I'm not going to listen anymore. So you have to start your presentation in a very catchy way. Today I started my presentation with a story on me learning the guitar and comparing the guitar to our voices. And hopefully that's why some of you said, yes, I'm going to listen to this because she's telling me stories. But what I also did is that the first 3 minutes, I rehearsed them. The first 2 to 3 minutes, rehearse it. You get through the first 2-3 minutes, your nervousness automatically starts to go down. Your confidence starts to go up. But in the first 3 minutes, that's the make or break. So don't spoil it. Just memorize the first 3 minutes. So far, we've talked about all these different kinds of public speaking tips and tricks, small things which will make a big difference. I hope that's okay so far. I can see some comments and questions. Keep them coming. That's right. If you feel that your eyes always fill with tears, for example, well then, that's something that we're going to talk about right now because we are going to move into body language. What can we do to make sure our body language shows that we are confident? Here's a question for you. You don't need to be confident for public speaking. You don't need to be confident for public speaking. Is that true or false? Take a second to answer. Is that true or false? Just like some of your eyes might fill with tears, some of your Hands might start perspiring. What happens with me when I'm speaking a lot is that my throat gets very dry. So you see, what I do is to keep a glass of water and I keep sipping from it so that I can be more effective. So if your eyes are getting filling up with tears, keep a tissue with you. Or, you know, if your hands perspire too much, keep a handkerchief with you so that you can keep wrapping it, you can keep rubbing it. All right. So I'm saying you don't need to be confident. And some of you are saying, that's false. You do need to be confident. Well, no, it's actually true. You don't need to be confident to be a good public speaker. You only have to show confidence. That's it. You might be really nervous from inside. You might be shaking in your boots from inside. All you have to do, though, is to show people that you are confident. So the showing is really very important. How do you show people that you're confident? All the messages that people are getting about your confidence, where are they getting it from? You're not telling them I'm confident or not confident. The messages that they are getting is simply from your body language, is from the way that you're standing, the way your eyes are you looking at the ground or you're looking straight at them, is from your voice, it's from the shaking in your voice. Are you doing this, or you're speaking strongly like I am right now? Are you being able to smile, or are you really serious? Because I'm really scared that I'm going to forget what I learned just now. So yeah. Or what are you doing with your hands? Are your hands in your pockets? Or are your hands crossed like this tightly? Are they behind your back? People are getting messages about your confidence just from your body. That's it. All I need to do, therefore, is not to be confident, but I have to make sure that my body shows confidence. And I guarantee you, everybody, becoming confident is much, much longer. It's far harder. All you need to do is to start showing confidence. How do you do that? Again, a few simple things here, which will have a huge impact on how you show confidence through your body language. The first one is your breathing itself. When we are breathing, that determines how fast our heart is going and vice versa as well. If we are getting very nervous, my heart will start pumping. And I know it when it's not for public speaking, but sometimes for other kinds of situations, my heart just, I'm feeling very scared and nervous. My heart just goes boom, 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 boom. It's very fast. I can actually feel it in my chest. Can you believe it? All I have to do at that point of time to calm myself down is to inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. So inhale and do it with me, everyone. All of you who are listening to me right now, do it with me. Inhale and count to 4. Slowly, and initially it's going to be very fast because you're nervous, and then you just do it slowly. And that's right, there's because the adrenaline again is coursing through your body. This is called the fight or flight response, and this is conditioned from primitive times, when the lions and the woolly mammoths, all these scary things, used to chase us. We used to run away. Even now, when the herd of deer sees a lion in the distance, and the moment the lion starts to run, the herd of deer just flies away, just runs away. We want to do that. Scary situation, we want to run away. So our body generates all this extra adrenaline to give us the energy to run. That makes our heart go boompity boompity boom and makes us breathe really fast. And what happens to our voice, what people hear, is that they hear this very nervous, somebody who speaks really fast, quavering, shaking kind of a voice. Breathing, just breathing. Simplest exercise that you can do. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out slowly and focus on your breathing. Remember what I said earlier? The anxiety comes from imagining what's going to happen 15 minutes later when my presentation actually starts. I'm breathing right now. I focus only on my breathing. I only focus on myself, on the present. Simple technique. Another technique, because a lot of the messages that our body conveys comes from our eyes. And if I'm very nervous or terrified, what will happen is I'm not going to blink. And I know you can see all this. I'm going to blink less often. I'm trying to show you what happens to our eyes when I get really nervous. It'll come out like this blank stare. And I want all of you to now consciously relax your eyes. Just relax. Just blink 2-3 times. Relax your eyes. Soften your eyes and have a little smile. Just soften this place as well. Soften. Soften. And do it along with me. Soften your eyes. Soften your lips. And immediately you see your expression becomes much more relaxed, much more pleasant. People want to hear you because you look confident. Don't stare, don't stare, don't forget to blink. Soften your eyes and your mouth. Power presence. This is something, again, very simple technique that you can do. And it is a little bit counterintuitive. It doesn't sound like sense. It sounds like nonsense, but it works so well. What does it mean? Just exactly what I'm doing, what I've been talking about. Now, look at Wonder Woman, who's on your screens right now. Now, Wonder Woman is standing in a very powerful pose. And you look at Wonder Woman, you're like, wow, this lady is supremely confident. Look at her. She's like, bring on all you got. All the bad guys can keep coming. I'm going to hit them. Pow, bang. I'm going to take care of it. I'm a strong woman. How is she showing that? She's just showing that by the way that she's holding her body. That's it. That's it. She's not saying anything right now. She's doing it by just the way she's holding her posture. So if you want to show confidence, there are a few quick things that you can do. One is your shoulders need to be back, not round your shoulders. Put your shoulders back just now, like I did just now. And then a very, very easy thing that you can do, which is to use what is called a power pose. And a power pose is something that all the athletes do whenever they win something, win a race, or they win a match. Have you seen what they do? They all go like this. Yes, yes. All their arms go up automatically. You will never see an athlete who's won something whose arms are down below. Yes, yes. They're never doing that. Their arms immediately go up like this. Yes, we won. Yes. It's always high. So a power pose, which can give you confidence, just to raise your arms up high. And again, don't do this while you're on stage. This is a practice that you do before you go on stage. Just stand to the side or outside the room where you're supposed to be and just raise your hands. And if you can, raise your fingers like this. Just raise your hands and just be there like this for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then you can bring your arms down and then put it up again and just do this and just shake it a little bit as well, like this. Yeah, you've seen Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, when he won the races, he would go like this. That's what Usain Bolt used to do. Up. The finger has to be up and the arm has to be up as well. If you can do this, I'm saying this works so well, and I've tried this myself. Works really well. It'll calm you down and it'll give you this tremendous surge of power. Yes, I'm going to do it. Combine it with all the other things that I said, the positive beliefs. This is going to go really well. I'm going to win, guys. I'm going to win this. And you're telling yourself, I'm going to win. And you have this power pose. That's going to work really well for you. Power movement. Whenever you are in front of an audience, standing in one place shows that you are nervous. Just standing with your legs really close together and arms really close together shows that you are nervous. If you want to show confidence, move around. And one way you can do that is to imagine there's a triangle on stage. So don't move randomly, because random movement also is very, very distracting for your audience. It's really good to have this mental triangle. And I want to start my speech at point B, which is closest to my audience. And then when I'm giving them some facts and figures about environmental pollution, I will move back to point A. And then point C I will go to, because that's where my screen is or my chart is. And I want to show some points that I will go to point C. So I can keep doing this movement. Okay, now I'm telling a story to my audience. I need to come closer to my audience. Now I'm doing virtually, I come closer to the screen like this, to my lens, because I want to feel closer to you and I want to draw your attention in. But then sometimes I can move back when I'm talking about something like this. And then I can sometimes even move my chair and I can go to the other side. Very much more limited when I'm in a virtual session. But if I was on stage, I would be constantly doing this A, B, and C movement. Well, not constantly, you know what I mean. I'm not going to be moving about like a mad woman or like a chicken, but I am going to move fairly strategically, and I'm going to think about where I'm going to be moving. Yes, so plan it out, like Saksham says there, plan it out where I'm going to move and have this in your head. And if you have the scope to maybe draw 3 little crosses with chalk, that's also very good if you're able to do that. If you can't do that, well, just imagine that it's there. So that's another thing that will show people that you have a lot of confidence, right? So almost at the end, if there are any questions, please put them down. Any questions on public speaking confidence, please put them down in the chat box while I recap what I have just been talking about. And then I want to tell you a story, and that will be our session on public speaking confidence. I started off telling you that our voices are instruments and that instruments aren't good or bad. None of us are good speakers or bad speakers. We're not born like that. But there are good speakers and bad speakers because of the way that they have practiced and the way that they have built up their skills. Public speaking is a skill. It's not magic. It's not a miracle. Nobody calls it a public speaking miracle. You call it a public speaking skill. A skill means something that you have to learn and that you have to be, you can practice. So the first point that I said is, don't imagine that you're speaking in public. You're not speaking to a whole bunch of people. Even if there are a whole bunch of people there, you're actually speaking to one person at a time. Each person is there individually, and they've come there individually to listen to you. So talk to a person individually, one-on-one. Imagine that this is a conversation, not a performance. So you don't need to be perfect. A performance, you need to be perfect. In a conversation, it's a conversation with friends. You don't need to be perfect. The second very important thing is, change what you believe. All kinds of beliefs about public speaking in our head. The yellow hat belief and the black hat belief. Change what you believe. Write down what's going to go wrong, what you believe is going to go wrong. Throw it away. Write down what you believe is going to go well. Read that before your presentation so that you are able to get that confidence. Try some memory tricks, because one of the biggest causes of anxiety is that we believe that we are going to forget what we learned in our speech. So try memory tricks. Lots of memory tricks that I showed you. Abbreviations, then categorization, then the rule of three, not more than 3 messages at a time, then the stacking the house technique that we talked about, and a cheat sheet. And of course, we talk about body language. Show confidence. You don't have to be confident. You just have to show confidence. So breathe and soften your eyes. Use power poses and movement like I showed you just now. Overall, focus on the present by chewing gum, doing breathing exercises. Don't worry about what's going to happen 15 minutes from now. So bring your attention back from the future into the present on yourself. Use a squishy ball if you want. Whatever it is, focus on the present. These are the main lessons that you learned today. I hope you will apply them. But here's a little story for you. Yash, this is exactly what we've been talking about. All the points that I did, go over them. Each one of this is going to help you to deal with your stage fear. But one message that I do want to give all of you is just to tell yourself, don't be afraid. Why are you afraid? This is so silly to be afraid. Never going to work. It's like if you just tell yourself, you should go to the gym. You should become fit. Never going to work. You still have to wake up early in the morning. You have to put on your gym shoes. You have to get out of the house and then go to the gym. Similarly, just telling yourself, don't be afraid of public speaking, not going to work. Do each one of the things that I taught you just now. And there are so many other lessons that I've taught on public speaking. Go through them, learn it. And let me now start with my story, and then I will end with your question again, Yash. This is a story about a Greek guy. And his name was Demosthenes. Demosthenes. He lived in ancient Greece rather. Demosthenes was a really bad speaker because as a child he had a lot of problems. He was a stammerer. He would stammer, he would stutter, he would get stuck. So he would say stuck like that. So that reduced his confidence. He didn't know how to speak. And so he started to learn, but then, he went and he tried to make a speech, but everybody jeered him. Everybody made fun of him. So he got really disheartened. And then for a few years, he was not seen. Once he grew up, though, his dad died, and some of his relatives tried to take all his dad's money away from Demosthenes. At that point of time in Greece, you could go to court and you could try to win, fight and win, but you didn't have lawyers. So you had to present your own arguments to the judge and the jury, and then they would decide whether you won or you lost. So Demosthenes took these relatives to court, and he made such a fantastic speech about why he should have the money, how he's the rightful heir, and all these relatives and neighbors were just trying to steal from him. He made such a fantastic speech that the court gave him the money which was rightfully his. And Demosthenes went on to become an amazing public speaker. In fact, he made a profession out of public speaking. One of his greatest triumphs was convincing the people of Athens that they must build up their army, their navy rather. They must invest money in buying new ships, having a much more powerful navy rather than spend the money somewhere else. And he was such a powerful orator that he was actually able to convince the people of Athens to do that. And the people of Athens were notorious for being really bad audiences who would heckle the speakers. Heckling means where they would jeer at them, make fun of them, throw tomatoes and all of those kinds of things. How do you think Demosthenes became the kind of speaker he was from the kind of speaker he used to be? He became this amazing public speaker, but he used to be a very shy boy who would stammer and stutter and wouldn't be able to put a few sentences together. He disappeared for a few years in between. What do you think happened that made him such an amazing speaker? Do you want to try? Anybody to guess? It is actually a very, very simple answer. All Demosthenes did was to set a goal for himself that I'm going to become an amazing public speaker. And then all he did was to practice and practice and practice. And he is the one who actually started this whole custom of standing in front of a mirror and practicing. He put rocks, little pebbles in his mouth, and he started to talk with those because he wanted to clear his enunciation, the way he spoke, the way his words were coming out. So he worked really hard. He practiced a lot. So to answer all of your questions, there is no way you can become a good public speaker if you don't practice. It's not something that's very natural to most of us. Some of us could be naturally brilliant at public speaking. Even then, we have something to learn. But those of us who are not naturally brilliant at public speaking, never fear. Learn from the best public speakers and then just practice. Just practice, just practice. Before your big speech, your big event, record yourself on video, play the video back, have a look at it, and see what you have done well and what you can do better the next time. So that's all there is from me. Saksham, one last question from you. I can see what should be the pitch of our voice. No right or wrong answer, Saksham. Sometimes the pitch of our voice could be really high, just like this when I'm talking about something really exciting. But if I'm talking about something really serious, my pitch can go low. What's really important, Saksham and everybody here? Keep on varying the pitch. Keep on changing it. Don't continue with a really high pitch all the time. Don't go into a really low pitch all the time. Keep varying it. That's called voice modulation. That's much more important than trying to define what a perfect pitch is. I hope I answered your question. I want to end with this story on the guitar. Remember, I gave up the guitar and I blamed the guitar. Don't ever do that. Don't give up. Keep practicing. If you have a bad public speaking experience, doesn't mean that you can't have a good one next time. You just learn from it. You practice a little bit more, build up your confidence, and you will succeed. That's it from my side. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. And I hope you learned something useful for you that you can start applying. Little things which will make a huge difference. Take care and bye-bye till next time.